What I'm about to share may disrupt your current view of what it really takes to succeed in today's world. I want you to receive this message with both openness and discernment because its purpose is not to flatter you, but to challenge you. Have you ever wondered why genuinely kind individuals often fall short of reaching their aspirations? Why those who live honestly sometimes find themselves pushed aside? Or why generous souls occasionally walk away feeling exploited? The explanation is not always luck, nor is it always circumstance. Quite often, the truth is that these individuals have not yet mastered the ability to blend their virtues with a sharper sense of strategic awareness. Human interaction is not simple. It is a constant flow of hidden motives, shifting priorities, and unspoken expectations. Many people cling to ideals alone, believing that sincerity by itself guarantees results. Meanwhile, others have learned to weave integrity together with tactical understanding, a form of wisdom that rarely appears in casual conversations yet has guided influential thinkers, rulers, and philosophers for centuries. This fusion of values and strategy has been observed and applied for at least 500 years, and it remains the invisible line separating those who advance with purpose from those who quietly accept less than they deserve. The moment you begin to view life through this perspective, your awareness broadens dramatically. You start noticing recurring behaviors, invisible rules that govern interactions, and psychological forces that shape every exchange. Suddenly, relationships, conflicts, and opportunities no longer seem random, but reveal themselves as patterned and predictable. If you are someone who prefers simple formulas for complex realities, what comes next may feel uncomfortable. But if you have curiosity about the psychology of influence, if you want to understand why pure idealism often breeds disappointment, and if you're prepared to embrace a more mature approach to reaching your goals, then this exploration will serve you well. Write this in your heart. I pursue wisdom, not manipulation, not deceit, but wisdom, the genuine grasp of human behavior that will allow you to navigate the world with greater clarity, effectiveness, and integrity. This shift does not strip away your values. Instead, it strengthens them with the power to create results that last. Consider the first principle, the trap of inflexible thinking. Ask yourself a direct question. When was the last time that simply being idealistic, without adding any practical approach, create a real and measurable transformation in your life? I am not asking about moments where you felt morally satisfied or situations where others applauded your virtue. I'm talking about concrete outcomes, progress that made a difference in your career, your relationships, or your well being. If you struggle to recall such a moment, there is a reason. It is not because morality is wrong, but because morality without strategy is limited. One of the overlooked realities is that many of the principles we were raised on operate under the assumption that others will interact with the same fairness, patience, and clarity, but human beings don't always behave that way. Reflect on your upbringing. Parents, teachers, mentors, and leaders repeatedly told you to be patient, to stay honest, to play fair, and to wait your turn. These teachings shaped your values, but look closer. Did those same authority figures live by those standards rigidly in their own important pursuits? More often than not, when their goals were on the line, they merged their moral compass with calculated thinking, measuring timing, reading the psychology of others, and making adjustments based on circumstances. This isn't hypocrisy. It's the recognition that life demands both virtue and intelligence. Those who cling only to one side, pure idealism without adaptability, often end up powerless. Predictability becomes their weakness. Others who understand the mechanics of human nature can anticipate their behavior, manipulate their expectations, and gain an advantage. Meanwhile, those who limit themselves to idealistic patterns unknowingly restrict their impact. Think of people who have created transformative change in history. Did they rely solely on unbending virtue? Or did they understand the balance between principle and prudence? The answer is clear. They succeeded because they could recognize when idealism alone served the mission and when it needed to be tempered with insight into timing, psychology, and power. To ignore this balance is to misunderstand how change actually occurs in the world. Let us also reflect on the words of thinkers from the past. Niccolo Machiavelli once remarked that promises might serve their purpose in one moment, yet breaking them may serve a purpose in another. The lesson here is not to casually discard your word, but to recognize that blind devotion to one rigid approach, without weighing context and consequence, can sometimes cause harm even when intentions are pure. The truth is that circumstances evolve. A strategy that seemed noble and effective yesterday may fail disastrously tomorrow. If you remain inflexible, whether through extreme idealism or hardened cynicism, you guarantee rigid outcomes. Society has conditioned many to believe that questioning traditional moral advice makes one untrustworthy, or that thinking tactically about human behavior makes one selfish. But those who bring about meaningful improvements in the world understand a more complete truth. Effectiveness requires both good intentions and the intelligence to apply them wisely in real world conditions. Unfortunately, many hesitate to embrace this balance because they fear appearing manipulative. They fear that protecting their interests will be seen as selfish. Yet the paradox is that failing to develop strategic awareness allows others to take advantage of them, which ultimately reduces the good they can do for others. To be effective, you must learn to pair your integrity with intelligence. Ask yourself, do you want to remain someone who follows rigid codes while others adapt with foresight? Or do you want to be someone who learns how to create genuine positive change without compromising your values? The world has always demanded both virtue and wisdom. The choice is whether you will cultivate both within yourself. Affirm this truth. I choose wisdom. Now let us examine a second principle, the psychology of social expectations. This is where many well-intentioned people stumble without realizing it. Society, whether through culture, education, or authority, has trained you to act predictably, and predictability, while comfortable, can be exploited. Notice how people often advise you to avoid all conflict. On the surface, it seems like noble advice. Why disturb peace? But underneath, it often translates into avoiding necessary conversations that could resolve long term issues. Others may advise you never to prioritize your own interests. Sounds humble, doesn't it? Yet in practice, it often means neglecting your own needs while empowering others to consistently advance theirs. You may have been told to forgive instantly, to always accommodate, to always yield. At first, these principles seem virtuous, but in practice, they often lead to repeated patterns of exploitation. By forgiving without discernment, you allow harmful behavior to repeat. By accommodating endlessly, you encourage others to dismiss your boundaries. By avoiding conflict at all costs, you silence your own voice while enabling dysfunction. Each time you act in this predictable manner, others may admire your patience, but quietly benefit from your passivity. They thrive because you remain locked in a pattern of compliance. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. Imagine being in a meeting where someone repeatedly interrupts you. Conventional conditioning whispers in your ear. Remain polite. Don't challenge them. Keep the peace. So you stay silent, and as a result, your contributions are erased from the discussion. Or think of situations where colleagues take credit for your ideas. Instead of addressing it, you convince yourself that collaboration is more important. Or perhaps someone repeatedly arrives late to commitments with you. Instead of addressing it directly, you assure yourself that patience is a virtue. Again and again, you excuse behaviors under the banner of virtue. Yet the underlying reality is that you are signaling that your time, energy, and creativity can be disregarded. The harsh truth is that this is not accidental. Some systems thrive when people act exactly as you have been conditioned to forgive endlessly, to accommodate without boundaries, and to remain silent in the face of unfairness. This conditioning creates populations that rarely question, rarely demand reciprocity, and rarely resist arrangements that favor others more than themselves. You may have become one of these participants, following social scripts faithfully while others around you practice more flexible, strategic methods. The outcome is predictable. Your goodness is admired, but their goals are achieved. Awareness, however, changes the entire game. When you begin to see that social rules are not absolute but contextual, you gain the ability to respond differently. You learn that while kindness is vital, it must not come at the expense of self respect. You realize that while forgiveness matters, it is most powerful when combined with accountability. You discover that cooperation is effective when paired with assertiveness. True wisdom lies not in abandoning your values, but in applying them intelligently within the complexity of human interactions. Repeat this affirmation: I see clearly. The third principle is about the psychology of presentation. This may be the most misunderstood dimension of influence, yet it is often the one that determines who gets heard, who gets respected, and who gets followed. People respond to how things are presented as much as they respond to the content itself. Success is rarely built on raw substance alone. It is built on the ability to frame, express, and communicate substance in ways others can engage with. Many assume that being authentic means behaving the same way in all contexts, but effective individuals understand something deeper. Communication is contextual. A rigid person may speak with the same tone in every conversation, expecting others to adapt, but a wise person adjusts their approach without abandoning their authenticity. They know that what works in one room may fail in another. They understand that people absorb information differently depending on the setting, the stakes, and the audience. Adaptation is not deception, it is intelligent alignment. Let me give you illustrations. Imagine being at a family gathering where stories are shared. Do you open up about your deepest struggles in an unfiltered way, creating discomfort? Or do you share meaningful experiences that connect without oversharing? The less strategic person overshares and weakens the bond. The more strategic person communicates in ways that build connection while maintaining dignity. Consider another scenario. You're speaking with someone passionate but uninformed about a subject you know well. Do you drown them in technical jargon to prove your knowledge? Or do you translate your insights into relatable terms, ensuring understanding while preserving respect? The first approach isolates, the second builds bridges. One more case: someone spreads misinformation about your project. Do you correct them harshly in public, creating defensiveness? Or do you address the issue tactfully in private, preserving relationships while protecting the truth? Each scenario reveals the same principle. Effective individuals know that while truth and authenticity matter, the method of delivery shapes the outcome just as much as the content itself. Machiavelli once wrote that everyone can see what you appear to be, but few truly know who you are. This is not about false appearances. It is about recognizing that perception and presentation are inseparable from impact. To ignore presentation is to waste the power of your substance. What separates the truly effective from the frustrated idealist is their ability to integrate values with awareness, kindness with boundaries, and authenticity with adaptability. The world rewards not only those who mean well, but those who can deliver their meaning with wisdom. Those who master this balance elevate both themselves and those around them. So, as you reflect on these ideas, ask yourself, will you continue to move through life with rigid patterns that others can easily exploit? Or will you embrace a more complete understanding of human nature, one that empowers you to do good more effectively? The choice lies with you. Write this final truth upon your heart: I walk with wisdom. I want to share an idea that may completely change how you view effectiveness in life and work. Many people believe authenticity means behaving the same in every circumstance, but that mindset often limits growth and reduces impact. The truth is, adaptability is not manipulation, it's intelligence. The person who insists on reacting identically in every situation may feel consistent, but consistency without context often leads to failure. On the other hand, the individual who understands when to adjust tone, language, and approach can create solutions, strengthen bonds, and open doors that would otherwise remain closed. Think of two types of people. The first insists on rigid expression, even if it creates unnecessary conflict. The second chooses language and actions that address the real issue without damaging relationships. Which one has greater long-term influence? Clearly the second. And this isn't about dishonesty. It's about being wise enough to know that people, situations, and environments are different, so communication must evolve accordingly. Ironically, those who criticize adaptability as fake often fail to notice their own blind spots. They think sameness equals authenticity, when in reality, Real authenticity is aligning your words and actions with your deeper mission while choosing the method that works best in the moment. What truly serves people around you? Stubborn consistency that alienates them, or flexible intelligence that builds bridges? The people who matter most, leaders, innovators, decision makers, recognize that communication is not about rigidly expressing yourself, but about creating understanding. And when you commit to learning the skill of contextual communication, you unlock doors to influence, collaboration, and real impact. This is why I encourage you to adopt the mindset. I master communication because once you do, every interaction becomes an opportunity to advance your mission, your values, and your ability to make meaningful contributions. Now, let's go deeper to the invisible barriers that quietly limit people from reaching their potential. These barriers are not external walls. They are internal beliefs that act like silent prisons. They show up in hesitation, in fear of rejection, in the quiet voice that whispers, "You don't deserve this." How many times have you wanted to reach for something better, a new job, a new connection, a new level of growth, but stopped yourself because it seemed too ambitious? How many times did you silence your own desires out of guilt or fear of judgment? These moments are not signs of humility. They are symptoms of conditioning. Self doubt is rarely natural, it is taught. And here's the important part: someone benefits from you doubting yourself, but that someone is rarely you. Systems benefit when people remain compliant. Others benefit when you undervalue your time, your abilities, and your contribution. But if you truly reflect, you'll see that self doubt doesn't protect you. It protects the comfort of those who would rather you remain smaller than your potential. Let's challenge some of the most common limiting beliefs. The belief that ambition is greed. Well, why should aiming higher be considered selfish? Who decided that maximizing your abilities was wrong? Another belief. Prioritizing your growth makes you self centered. But isn't it more selfish to neglect your talents and deprive others of the value you could create? Growth isn't selfish, it's preparation to serve at a higher level. And another common one: if I succeed, I take something away from others. In truth, success often multiplies opportunities. It creates jobs, inspires others, and expands what's possible for those around you. Notice the irony. Those who made you feel guilty for wanting more often don't live by the same restrictions. While you hesitate, they move. While you question your worth, they act. As Machiavelli once said, it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. In other words, it is not permission, approval, or external validation that makes you worthy. It's what you do with your capabilities. Here's a powerful exercise. The next time self doubt rises, ask yourself three questions. Who benefits if I hesitate right now? Does this hesitation actually protect anyone? Or is it just keeping me small? And finally, what would I do if I believed I had full permission to pursue this? The answers will expose the truth. Most of your hesitation is nothing more than programming. Once you see that, the chains break. You realize self doubt is not destiny, it's optional. Limiting beliefs are not fate, they're choices. Growth belongs to those who decide to move despite uncertainty, which is why I encourage you to declare, I choose growth. Now, let's talk about the foundation that ties everything together: strategic ethics. Many people imagine ethics as black and white, as if every choice is either good or evil. But the most impactful individuals know that life is rarely that simple. Real ethics requires wisdom. It requires aligning values with context so that actions create positive outcomes instead of unintended harm. Strategic ethics doesn't mean abandoning principles. It means applying them intelligently. Think of it this way: kindness is powerful, but kindness without boundaries can enable harmful behavior. Honesty builds trust, but sharing everything without thought can create unnecessary damage. Forgiveness can heal, but unconditional forgiveness without accountability teaches people they can repeat destructive actions. Strategic ethics means choosing when kindness builds growth, when honesty fosters clarity, and when forgiveness opens doors for improvement. It's not about abandoning these values. It's about applying them in ways that actually make them effective. Take a few examples. Suppose someone always asks for your help but never reciprocates. Conventional thinking might tell you to keep giving because good people help, but strategic ethics means you create balance. Your support becomes conditional on fairness, teaching that relationships thrive on reciprocity. Or imagine someone spreads false information that hurts your reputation. Passive morality might tell you to ignore it and take the high road. But strategic ethics calls for correcting the record, not just for your sake, but to show that truth and fairness matter. This approach isn't selfish, it's responsible. History proves this point. The great leaders, reformers, and builders who reshaped societies did not operate by naive simplicity. They combined integrity with strategy. They chose their moments carefully, balanced competing values, and aimed for outcomes that served the bigger mission rather than momentary comfort. Strategic ethics is the difference between being a passive participant in life and being a force for constructive change, which is why the affirmation here is I create positive impact. And finally, let's talk about the choice before you right now. Oversimplified thinking has a hidden cost. It doesn't ruin your life in one dramatic event. Instead, it quietly erodes your potential through small losses, an opportunity not taken, a boundary not defended, a conversation avoided. Each time you settle for being liked instead of being respected, you trade away long-term influence for short-term approval. Each time you remain silent when you could have added value, you train the world to ignore your contribution. Each time you let comfort outweigh courage, you reduce the positive change you could have created. Meanwhile, someone else with your exact potential is living the life you want. They are respected, valued, and influential, not because they're better, but because they understood earlier what you're learning now. The world rewards effectiveness, not just goodness. And effectiveness is not manipulation. It's alignment between intention and intelligent action. So the decision is yours. Do you continue living within the limits of rigid beliefs, predictable responses, and conditioned self-doubt? Or do you embrace adaptability, growth, and strategic ethics to unlock the influence you deserve? The life you want requires both heart and strategy, both values and intelligence, both goodness and effectiveness. The question is not whether you're worthy, you already are. The real question is whether you'll choose to step into that worth with action. Say it with me. I master communication. I choose growth. I create positive impact. These are not just words. They are commitments to yourself, to your potential, and to the difference you're meant to make. Because the world doesn't just need more good people. It needs good people who are also effective, wise, and courageous enough to act. And that can be you if you choose it today. They came to understand a crucial truth. Ethics on its own does not hand you influence, but influence can give you the space to practice ethics on a broader scale. Those who clung to simple, rigid formulas often discover that the very people teaching them such ideas weren't living by those same restrictions when their own major goals were at stake. As Machiavelli famously observed, fear and love seldom coexist, and if one must choose, fear ensures greater security. Translated into modern life, this doesn't mean you must inspire terror. It means it's wiser to be respected for your skill than overlooked because of your innocence. It is better to be recognized for your competence than disregarded simply because of your pure intentions. Now, you might feel a tug of resistance, thinking, this seems complicated, maybe even uncomfortable. That hesitation is itself evidence of why this shift in thinking matters. The doubt you feel may not be your inner integrity speaking. It may be years of conditioning that trained you to accept a smaller role, while others advanced with a deeper understanding of influence. Those same voices that told you effectiveness is somehow dishonest. Look closely at them. Are they producing the results they promised? Have they built the impact they claim to value? Do they even follow their own advice when facing high-stakes situations? Frequently, the answer is no. They supplied you with a framework designed to keep you in check, while they operated on more nuanced strategies that allowed them to thrive. So here you stand with a choice. You can cling to ways of thinking that cap your impact, or you can step into principles that actually reshape outcomes. You can stay someone who means well, but remains limited in reach, or you can become someone who merges integrity with power, good intentions with genuine effectiveness. The reality is that human interaction is layered and complex whether you accept it or not. The question isn't whether this complexity exists, it's whether you'll study it consciously and use it, or keep acting with partial knowledge and paying the price for it. History doesn't immortalize people for being flawless rule followers. It honors those who moved societies, who innovated, who shifted the course of events. Those individuals knew that the world operates by real, sometimes harsh principles, not by the way we wish it might. This isn't an invitation to become manipulative. It's a call to become whole. Whole enough to act with kindness when kindness creates results. Whole enough to be strategic when strategy enables ethical outcomes. Whole enough to wield enough influence so that your values matter beyond your own feelings. They matter in shaping reality. If this has opened your eyes to the way influence really works, don't let the insight end here. Share it with someone who's been unintentionally limiting themselves with overly simplified ideas. Understand this. The world belongs to those who see its rules clearly. Success belongs to those who stop apologizing for pursuing it. Power belongs to those willing to earn it and wise enough to channel it for good. Many never come to this realization. Now that you have, the question remains, what will you do with it? Declare it boldly. I choose power. Because choosing power is choosing the ability to make your ethics matter in a world that only listens to those who command respect. Welcome to the realm of sophisticated thought, the place where real change begins.